Who is going to deliver the story to us? I'm Andrew Ullman. I've self-published 6 novels, and I am a pantser. I plan nothing. I've tried to plan. It doesn't work. I'm off topic by the first page, and so this is like video 3, I think, in the series that I am trying to help any other pantsers out there organize their craft. Today we're talking about characters. Your characters are paramount to everything. They have to have depth. They have to be important in some way. They cannot be just a vessel and only a vessel. We have to care about them as the reader. Cool thing is, as a pantser, we tend to really like growing with our characters, and it's a lot of fun to write. I have a little method that I do. I only do this, it's probably the closest thing to any planning I ever do. I think about who my characters are going to be or how they're going to go about doing any of the stuff in the book, even though I don't know what's going to happen in the book yet because I'm a pantser and I write it from just an idea, in my case, a theme. You can do it on a document. You can write it down. I do this in my head most of the time, but I at least try to do something. If you write it down, you have a bit of an advantage if you have terrible memory or just take Ginkgo or something. What you got to do is you got to figure out what their background is. I'll give you a really good example. In this book, it's my most popular book and probably the one I get the most comments on my characters. People read the sequel because they want to know where the characters go. They want that story. They're connected to them, and that's really what you want. The main character is Hillray Higgins. He's an older man. He's a retired police officer in a small town of Ash Flat, Arkansas. From there, what you discover over little sprinkled bits, and that's the trick. You got to sprinkle it. You don't want these long expositions. You start to figure out his background, where he comes from, why he makes the choices he makes. Thing is, before I even started writing that book, I knew I needed to figure that out, and I'd never done it. I'd already written like 4 or 5 books before I ever did that. Pro tip. He was military, special forces before special forces were a thing. Really, that was more just to being an Arkansas boy because we tend to be pretty poor, and so we need to know how to hunt, fish, farm, all that stuff, build things on our own. That's why we have hardware stores. Another thing you can do with that too, by the way, with your characters is use your own life experience and maybe separate it out. On another side of that, like I grew up in Arkansas, but my mom is from Chicago. So the side character, who's also a main, although we don't get her POV in that particular book, she takes over in the sequel, which is also out, the Izzard County Incubus. She's from Chicago. She was a homicide detective. She moved down to Arkansas to get away from something. That's all I knew when I first started this book. And here's the cool thing about being a pantser. As you're writing your characters, they grow with you. Hillray would grow, he's kind of based on my grandfather. If my grandfather never got married, he was not a nice man, but I made Hillray nicer. Dakota, she is the one from Chicago. She's much younger. This is not a weird romantic thing. There's no romance in this book at all. Father-daughter relationship thing that kind of grows. All I knew when I wrote her was that she had to have come down here for some reason, and that reason had to make her okay with becoming Hillray's apprentice. And the reason for that is Hillray's not just a retired detective, he's also a serial killer of a very certain type of person that I'm afraid to say on YouTube, so I don't. Just read it, you'll find it, you'll like it, whatever. It's going to make you ask a lot of questions, especially with current events. That's your hint, I guess. As this went along, I was like mid-dialogue when she catches him, and I was like, man, you know what? Because this is the pantser style, right? This idea comes to me mid-dialogue, and I'm like, this would be a fantastic scene. And so that's what I wrote. I wrote the scene, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite things I've ever written, and that's just how this goes as a pantser, and you have to be okay with that. We're not in chaos. We're not wandering around in the wilderness blind. You just have to let your characters grow naturally. And my readers give me a lot of feedback, a lot of reviews, and they do. They say they love the characters. And so this is the thing, right? Like the characters, some of them come back even though they didn't like the story that much, just for the characters. So this is a key point you can work on. And the thing is, like, if they come from a world, even if you're writing fantasy, if they come from a different part of the world or a different planet or whatever, that's just more stuff you can add in to build. It's fantastically fun, by the way, to do all this. I will write a fantasy one day, or at least finish one. I've started several. Characters matter. And the thing about this is if you just have a basic idea of your characters, it's the same as your basic idea for writing. It takes a lot of the frustration out. You just write. We'll fix all the garbage in the drafts, which we do a lot of. Those are future videos. But yeah, that's it for characters. It shouldn't take you more than 5 or 10 minutes to flesh out a character. You can mill it in your head. You can write it down. I would suggest writing it down. It's easier to think, right? Like, do you remember what you were thinking at 8 p.m. yesterday morning? I don't remember it all, and sure can't tell you verbatim what it was. So if you write it down, that's a little better. You'll never have to look at it again because you'll remember it, because you wrote it and you thought it and you read it because you wrote it down. Make sense? Here is a big pro tip. Do not put your backgrounds of your characters in the story in one block. Sprinkle it in. It's what's making the decisions from your characters in the story. This is how you grow, right? This is how you grow as a writer. It's how your characters grow in the story. It's how the story evolves. It's how everything moves along. If you have somebody that's terrified of spiders and they have 2 rooms to go in and one is full of spiders, which one are they going to pick? It doesn't matter what's in the other one. It could be a lion, a dragon, a dude with a sword and like a really murderous grin on his face. He's like, eh. That's the thing. You've got to figure that out. Like, what is motivating them to move forward, and in what way are they going to move? The fun thing about this, and it does help with taking out a lot of the frustration, if you just kind of have an idea of where they're coming from all the time, if you know your characters when you write them, there is no frustration. There's none. You know exactly what they're going to do. There are some things, if you are maybe like a partial pantser and you want to really, really plan this out, look at Enneagrams, Enneagrams, I think. Abby Emmons. Go see Abby Emmons' channel. She has a fantastic series on, it might be a series, might be a video, on Enneagrams, if that's a thing you need. I'm pushing 40, so I've been around a lot of people for a long time, been in a lot of different professions. I know a lot of different skills. I'm aware of blue-collar mentalities, white-collar mentalities, education, law enforcement. I've done all these jobs. Rich people, poor people, drug addicts. I have a lot of kids. My kids are very different, so I've dealt with a lot of that stuff too, from mental health to cheerleading to football to whatever, right? Plus, because of what I do, I work with kids a lot and their parents. Use your experience yourself to help with your characters. The Enneagrams are pretty useful for those that need them. I do teach this as well to some students. I have writing students in person. I tell them about the Enneagrams. Some love using them. Some use my method. It's up to you. This is probably the one thing, if anything, as a pantser, you should contemplate planning. At the very least, have a base of what they're going to do. And once you have that base, you can move wherever you want to go. One last thing on the pantser style here of the character development is you never write yourself into a corner. You can just make them a normal human being. Like, there is nobody that's just stuck in one frame, right? People change their mind all the time. You can do that as a planner too. So now that you know the who, what, when, where, why, and now how, which should be a lot better, your how, now that you know who, we need to figure out about just writing. And that's the thing. You need to know how you're going to write this. And I will tell you, just write. And that's next week's video. So I'll see you then. And until then, see you later.